No, we don't shy away from talking about mental health because we know how much honest conversations can really help. And our award-winning campaign, Lighten the Load, encourages exactly that. This week, it's Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week, which covers such a wide range of areas, which is why we've each decided to talk about the part that affected us the most. Judi, I mean, I don't know what you think. I'm really pleased this has been broadened out to maternal mental health rather than a focus on postnatal depression, although that is important, obviously it is, but it is important to see it in a much broader context, don't you think?
Definitely. You know, you're going through such a change in your body, your mind, your environment. Now you're caring for yourself and someone else is growing inside you. There's so much different things. And I think for my second pregnancy, it was really, really difficult. My mum wasn't well throughout it. And literally like 4 weeks or so before I gave birth, my mum passed away. And in that same week as well, you know, I broke up with my kid's dad. So it was really, really difficult.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. I remember going to my midwife because, you know, my blood pressure and things like that, and they were just checking up on me. She just burst into tears because she was just like so much going on. But
she was so shocked that all that had happened
week,
to you.
that I was there 1 week because my mum had died, and the doctor wanted me to go and check everything, make sure I'm fine, and then back again. And, you know, I think at the time, you know, everyone's saying, you know, don't cry too much, you know, don't cry too much, be strong. You don't want to make the baby, you know, damage your baby or make the baby sick. So that was the focus, so holding everything in.
Which, of course, isn't the best thing at all.
It's not,
it's not,
definitely not. And then going through all of that and then having the baby was the focus. But I realised months later I just wasn't myself. I felt so heavy. I wasn't sure if it was grief or, you know, whether it was just tiredness. And then I think my daughter had one of those little children camera things, and I remember tidying up and it was on, and I looked at it and she just recorded me by accident, and I just looked so heavy and down. And I realised, like, yeah, I'm definitely going through, whether it's postnatal depression or depression, but and delayed grief.
What did it feel like then when you saw yourself on that camera?
It felt so, without being emotional, because I'm so grateful that I got to stage to speak. It felt so, it was hard. It was a hard reflection.
Yeah.
And that's what I worry about people. I worry about people feeling ashamed. Ashamed to say, I'm not OK. Like, ashamed to say, I want that help. And worried to take off the armour of being a strong woman. And as a black woman, being a strong black woman, because there is that label as well.
Even harder.
Yeah, and you need that space to be vulnerable. And you think
it's
to yourself...
incredibly strong to be vulnerable, isn't it?
It is incredibly strong. You think to yourself, what will happen? What will go forward? But it's about self-care. And I took for a few months, I did hide it, I didn't want to say anything. And then there was one time I just thought to myself, I thought about my mum and strokes that she's had, and I thought to myself, no, it's about self-care. And I took a deep breath and I texted my friends and my sister and said, I'm not feeling good, I need to take a break. And I went to Barbados. This lovely lady, Julia, and her husband just welcomed me with their arms. I went on my own for 10 days, and it was such a healing process. And don't get me wrong, you know, finances weren't there in that sense, but, you know, I ruffled together what I could and got the support and went. And it might not be a flight, it might be 2 days at another friend's house and you stay at someone else. And let me tell you, I had 3 people, my 2 good friends and my sister, and they did the whole childcare for those 10 days, and I'm so grateful for them. And I just want people to know, don't feel ashamed and don't feel like, you know, it's, like you said, it's not, you're not strong for being vulnerable. It's the beauty of self-care. That's the most important thing.
I did that a year after Charlie was born. I took 5 days and I went away, and I've never been away on my own. I've never wanted to go away on my own, but I just really felt I needed to have that kind of space to kind of go to the loo when I wanted to, go to bed when I wanted to, get up when I wanted, because everything...
It's a big thing, suddenly losing your freedom, isn't it?
Well, especially when you have kids late, like we did.
Yeah.
You know, you're used to doing everything that you ever wanted to do, when you wanted to, with no restrictions, and then suddenly at the age of 38 or 39, you know, it's not your life anymore. I mean, your first duty is to your child, but it's not always easy to do it. I mean, you were much younger. What age were you when you had your first?
I was 24. And I think, like, for me, what I think we're getting better at talking about, but I think we've been sold, and for some people it is true, but we're told that we have to love every second and we have to be great at it every minute of the day, and that's just not humanly possible. And I think that's why women find it hard to be able to say, I'm struggling, or I'm not loving this, without having to say, I really love my child, but you shouldn't have to say that.
I'm really grateful, but...
Yeah, because it is hard, and like taking that time out like you two did is a huge thing, and if you're not happy, your baby's not going to be happy, or your child's not going to be happy. For me,
you were a pregnant pop star.
Yeah, for me, I think I mean, it's quite a big thing anyway. I stayed on my antidepressants while I was pregnant with help from my GP and everything. And so for me, everyone was already quite aware that I could get postnatal depression, and luckily I didn't. But my depression was worse during my pregnancy because I found, coming from someone who really restricted my eating and really controlled my food and my weight, and being in the public eye, that sudden feeling of being so out of control of my body was really hard for me. And I gained like 4 stone, and I was still having to go on stage with the rest of the girls who still looked the same as before, and publicly people were seeing me looking different and commenting on that. And I actually felt this real shame of stepping out on stage and embarrassment of still being there, of still being on stage, because I was doing all these sexy dance moves and things, and just the whole time I just thought people were looking at me and thinking, she's disgusting, why is she still there?
Well, we're just so awful to ourselves as women. I mean, you're growing life and yet you still... It's so sad.
And I do still carry some of that shame because I have stretch marks and I have like looser skin in places, and I feel like coming from the position I was in, being in a band and things like that, I feel like I shouldn't have that. Like I should be some sort of supernatural woman that her body doesn't change and I don't look like a mum. I feel like that's what...
It's so good of you to share that, though, because, as you say, as a pop star, nobody would have thought that you ever felt like that. Because and so, you know, the thing is, we all do it to ourselves, don't we, no matter what?
Yeah, like in any walk of life, I think we kind of like feel like you're supposed to pop out a baby and live your life how you did before and look exactly the same as you did before.
Which is
utterly unrealistic.
It's a new chapter. It's a new chapter in life, and things change. We change. There's nothing wrong with us changing. And like I would say, like you said, just being able to be vulnerable. I think it sounded like you were so exposed, and sometimes we don't take that on, that those things are going to affect us. And even, like you said, the words we say to ourselves and the words that other people say to ourselves. So it's really about protecting ourselves and being honest with what we're feeling.
What was the biggest pressure for you?
I think, well, no, I know. As you know, before I had Kiki, I had miscarriages before, and it always followed exactly the same pattern, that I would get these hormonal headaches when I was pregnant. They would suddenly stop and then I would miscarry. So when I was pregnant with Kiki, I had all the headaches and I was kind of always waiting to have a miscarriage. And then all of a sudden, my headaches stopped. And there was some big event going on, and I was absolutely convinced that I'd lost her. I'd had a little spot of blood, and I thought, oh, this is a miscarriage. But I didn't want to tell the family, so I carried on pretending that I was still pregnant because I didn't want to upset everybody. It was just because I wasn't quite right. Anyway, and then it was after Christmas, and I shared it with Mark. I said, I've lost her, you know, I just didn't want to say. And we went and had this scan. And I'll never forget it, this doctor scanning me going, well, there's the heartbeat, and actually... it's a strong heartbeat. And I remember looking at this doctor and thinking, why would you say that? Why would you lie to me and say there's a heartbeat when she's not there anymore? And I remember walking down the street with Mark and just going, how can you have done that? And Mark was like, you know, no, I think, you know, we heard the heartbeat and it was just because I wasn't right. And then when we had her, even right up until I gave birth at her at home and she landed on the floor, and I only actually believed it when I saw Mark's face, and he was looking at her, and it was the most incredible look in his eyes, and he just kept saying over and over again, she's here, she's here. And I realised he had actually been keeping inside of him that maybe it wasn't true as well. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, she is here, and it was just, But I was very odd during that time. I think I've got a photo of Mark's little face, actually.
Look at that. Well, she's here.
We couldn't believe it. She got there and she came out with a great big smile.
Well, if you're looking for information or support about anything that we've talked about, head to the website on screen, which lists places to go for help.